scale, the sheer amount of investment going in.
Maybe 4 years ago, Google was spending less than $30 billion per year. This year, that number is going to be over $90 billion.
In 2024, the tech industry spent more money lobbying the US government than ever before in history. $85.6 million. That's how much big tech poured into federal lobbying in just 1 year, and that number keeps climbing. The 8 largest tech companies spent $36 million on lobbying in the first half of 2025 alone. That's roughly $320,000 for every single day Congress was in session. What are they buying with all this money? They're buying something more valuable than any product they've ever built: the power to write their own rules. As artificial intelligence reshapes everything from how we work to how we're hired, from what we see online to how criminals are caught, these companies are waging an aggressive campaign to make sure that you, the public, don't get a say in how this technology is governed. This is the story of how some of the richest companies on Earth are fighting to keep AI unregulated. And they're winning. Let's look at who's spending what. In 2024, these were the top tech lobbying spenders. Meta, $22.1 million, 2024 total. That's 1 lobbyist for every 6 members of Congress. Amazon, $20.8 million. Alphabet. Google, $14 million. Apple, $7.7 million. Microsoft, $10.2 million. But here's where it gets interesting. The AI-focused companies are ramping up fast. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, spent just $260,000 on lobbying in 2023. In 2024, that number jumped to $1.76 million. That's nearly a 600% increase in 1 year. And they're not just spending money, they're building armies. OpenAI went from 3 lobbyists in 2023 to 18 in 2024, a 7-fold increase. Meta hired 21 more lobbyists in a single year. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the picture is similar. Tech industry lobbying in the European Union hit $151 million in 2025, up 55% from just 4 years earlier. 1/3 of that spending comes from just 10 companies, 7 of them American. In Brussels, big tech companies average more than 1 meeting per day with European Commission officials. In the first half of 2025, they held 146 meetings with high-level Commission staff. Amazon had 43, Microsoft 36, Google 35, Apple 29, Meta 27. The dominant topic in these meetings? Artificial intelligence. To understand how tech lobbying actually works, let's look at one specific battle: California's Senate Bill 1047. In 2024, California lawmakers passed a bill that would have required AI companies to test their most powerful models for catastrophic risks. Things like enabling cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, helping create biological weapons, or causing mass casualties. Companies would have needed to implement a kill switch to shut down dangerous AI systems. Violators could face lawsuits. Polling showed 65% of Californians supported the bill. More than 80% agreed that AI developers should test for catastrophic risks and be held accountable. The legislation passed both houses of the state legislature. Then the lobbying machine kicked into gear. Google, Meta, and OpenAI all opposed the bill. So did venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz and startup incubator Y Combinator. 8 members of Congress, representing California districts, took the unusual step of writing to Governor Newsom urging him to veto legislation passed by his own state's legislature. OpenAI's chief strategy officer Jason Kwan warned that the bill would threaten growth, slow the pace of innovation, and lead California's world-class engineers and entrepreneurs to leave the state. The California Chamber of Commerce said it would put the state's position as the global hub of innovation at tremendous risk.
Had created its own weather system?
On September 29, 2024, Newsom vetoed the bill. Despite overwhelming public support, despite bipartisan backing, despite the bill's author pointing out it simply codified safety testing that AI companies had already voluntarily agreed to with the White House, the lesson was clear. When big tech mobilizes its resources, even popular, bipartisan legislation can be stopped dead in its tracks. After California's bill was vetoed, You might think the industry would be satisfied. You'd be wrong. Their next move was even more ambitious. They want to stop all 50 states from regulating AI. In 2025, state lawmakers introduced over 100 bills to regulate AI across the country. 40 states enacted at least one AI regulatory law. States are acting because Congress isn't, and the tech industry sees this as a problem. Their solution? Something called federal preemption, a legal maneuver that would strip states of their authority to regulate AI entirely. In mid-2025, Senator Ted Cruz introduced an amendment to a major budget bill that would have imposed a 10-year moratorium on state AI laws. Think about what that means. For an entire decade, no state, not California, not New York, not Texas, could pass laws to protect their citizens from AI harms. Large AI companies and their trade associations had explicitly requested this in their submissions to the White House. They lobbied for the moratorium's inclusion. Documents show it aligned closely with industry demands. The amendment failed. The Senate voted 99-1 to strip it from the bill. But the industry isn't giving up. In November 2025, President Trump drafted an executive order to preempt state AI laws by creating an AI litigation task force that would sue states over their regulations and threaten to withhold federal funding.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a Republican, called it federal government overreach and a subsidy to big tech. Democratic Senator Ed Markey accused the administration of siding with billionaire big tech buddies.
The tech industry calls it creating one clear national framework. Critics call it what it is, preventing anyone from regulating them at all. Lobbying government officials is just one part of the strategy. The tech industry is also working to elect politicians who won't regulate them in the first place. In August 2025, Silicon Valley launched a new super PAC called Leading the Future. Its backers include venture capital giant Andreessen Horowitz, OpenAI co-founder Greg Brockman, and Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale. Their reported war chest, more than $100 million. Their strategy is modeled on Fairshake, a cryptocurrency-focused super PAC that spent nearly $200 million in the 2024 elections to elect pro-crypto candidates and defeat skeptics. It worked. Now the AI industry wants to replicate that success. The PAC has already announced its first target. Alex Bors, a New York State Assembly member running for Congress who helped pass the RAISE Act, legislation requiring AI companies to publish safety protocols.
If they are scared of people who understand their business regulating their business, they are telling on themselves.
Meta has launched its own super PAC in California. Their explicit goal: support candidates who oppose AI regulation, regardless of party. The message to politicians is clear: regulate us, and we'll spend millions to end your career. The European Union passed the world's most comprehensive AI regulation, the AI Act, in 2024. It was supposed to be a model for the world, but the lobbying didn't stop at passage. In November 2025, the European Commission proposed delaying full implementation of the AI Act until 2027, 16 months later than planned. The proposal came after intense pressure from American tech companies, backed by the Trump administration's explicit warnings about regulatory overreach. Investigations by Corporate Europe Observatory revealed how big tech worked to water down the rules. Documents show a successful lobbying effort by Google and Microsoft to remove large-scale, illegal discrimination from the list of serious AI risks, downgrading it to merely an optional consideration. Apple's EU lobbying spending has nearly doubled in 4 years, from roughly $3.5 million annually to $7 million. In the first 6 months of 2025, Apple participated in 47 meetings with European Parliament members. Meta had 63. The dominant topic: artificial intelligence.
Consumer advocacy groups call it what it is. The European Consumer Organization said the Commission's proposal can only be read as deregulation, almost to the exclusive benefit of big tech.
Even Europe, which prided itself on standing up to tech giants, is buckling under the pressure. Money isn't the only currency in this game. There's also access, and nothing buys access like hiring the people who used to make the rules. Anthropic hired its first in-house lobbyist from the Department of Justice. OpenAI hired political veteran Chris Lehane as VP of Policy. 53% of lobbyists in the electrical manufacturing sector, key for powering AI data centers, are former government officials. Apple's lobbying team includes Timothy Powderly, former counsel for the House Energy and Commerce Committee, and Nicholas Rossi, former staff director for the Senate Commerce Committee. These are the exact committees that oversee tech regulation. It works the other way too. In Europe, one member of the European Parliament who frequently meets with Amazon is a former Meta lobbyist. She has faced criticism for potential conflicts of interest. This is how influence really works. Not just money, but relationships built over years. Intimate knowledge of how the system operates, and the ability to shape rules from the inside. Here's what this all means for you. Artificial intelligence is being deployed right now to decide whether you get a job, whether you qualify for a loan, what medical treatment you're offered, and what information shapes your view of the world. And the companies building these systems are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure nobody can hold them accountable when things go wrong. The industry's argument is always the same. Regulation will kill innovation. We'll fall behind China. Jobs will be lost. But that argument conveniently ignores what happens without regulation. Discrimination by algorithm, privacy violations at scale, and an erosion of the basic accountability that protects us from corporate harm. We don't let pharmaceutical companies sell untested drugs. We don't let car manufacturers skip safety inspections. We don't let banks operate without oversight. Why should AI be different? The answer, of course, is money. $85.6 million in a single year. $100 million super PACs. $151 million in European lobbying. The resources to block legislation, defeat politicians, delay enforcement, and write their own rules. The question isn't whether AI should be regulated. The public overwhelmingly believes it should. The question is whether democracy is strong enough to overcome the most well-funded lobbying campaign in the history of technology. The answer to that question is still being written, and it depends on whether people like you pay attention.